News came out yesterday that not Trey, Freudian slip, Jimmy Garoppolo is eligible to come back in 7 or 8 weeks. That would mean the divisional round or the NFC Championship. I think we were all waiting for the other quarterback to get cleared. Trey Lance, the guy who broke his ankle week 2. He had surgery. We've seen him walking around. I gave him a fist bump. It was a vigorous fist bump. Based on the fist bump, I feel like he's ready to play right now. But no, Niners won't let him, and they don't seem like they really want him to play while Jimmy Garoppolo is just chomping at the bit. What do you think of this? Why can Jimmy come back, but not Trey?
Because look, Trey Lance, I get why it's better to put Jimmy back versus Trey, and I 100% agree with that because you're not going to want to roll Trey out there. So, I mean, even when the return timeline is nearly the same, nearly identical, even if whatever, it's like give or take a couple weeks, Jimmy, you don't have to worry about still that learning curve. And with Trey, you're not only have to worry about that, you still have to throw him into the fire pit of the playoffs. That is a heck of an ordeal to throw your young player in coming off a pretty serious injury. It doesn't really behoove or benefit to put Lance there. Look, I was 100% for the fact bring Trey back if it was just Purdy. Like, say Jimmy was absolutely not able to come out. Then it's like, okay, yes, then you're probably most likely going to need to, ponder the idea of bringing Trey back for the playoffs, at least in a backup standpoint, depending on how Purdy's looking, if he doesn't get hurt. But Jimmy, at least it's like I could just put him in there or keep him as a backup and not worry. Versus Trey, there's still that learning experience because that's pretty much what we were so excited about for this whole season. He was going to get a whole season. We knew he was going to have some rough points, and then hopefully by this time this season, he was going to start looking more polished and being good for the team and elevating him. But now that's kind of taken away. You're still going to have to account for that. And putting him in a high-stakes, high-atmosphere environment, season on the line, I don't think that's ideal. That's not a good landing point for your supposed future of the franchise, if he is still that.
Yeah, but the problem with all that is the Niners haven't said any of that. They never said he's the future of the franchise or we're starting him, but he's a project and we need to roll with the punches. They never said that. They just said he's a starter this year. And they gave him all the first-team reps. There was no competition. They didn't want Jimmy Garoppolo to be at camp. I mean, their narrative, their message to the world was that we believe in Trey. He's our starter. And it seems to me that any other starter who broke their ankle week 2 and was ahead of schedule or looking good, they'd be kind of leaning on him like, hey, can we get you back for the playoffs, please? We need you. You're a starter. But they're treating Trey like he's not a starter. No, they're treating Jimmy like he's a starter. Jimmy, can you please come back in 7 or 8 weeks? We might need you. But Trey, it's like, you know what? We'll come back to you next year. Maybe, if we don't have Tom Brady. It just seems really strange. Like, they said they liked him. They said he was the starter. They didn't have a competition. He didn't get benched. He got injured. And now they're like, you know what? I'm going to go with Brock Purdy. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
wow,
I don't know.
how you changed. Wow.
I'm not too.
If Nick Bosa had the injury that Trey Lance had week 2, I just feel like there would be all kind of like, hey, man, he's ahead of schedule. He might come back. But it's Trey. And they're like, he's a project now. He wasn't a project in August.
He's an all-level player. And again, you're not going to – I just don't think it's –
That's true. That's true. I just thought Trey was the starting quarterback of the 49ers. They're treating him like he's back on the like his 2021 again. This is a redshirt year. It's another redshirt year. Okay.
It is another redshirt year. Yeah.
It's another redshirt, even if he's healthy, because he didn't. Okay.
Now it's about winning again. Look, even that first from starting from.
I thought he was starting because he gave the Niners the best chance to win. I thought that's what they said. I don't know. I guess not.
Well, it's because things kind of change, man. Look, I think it was all about projections, and it's the same thing. To me, it was always week 1 to the end of the season. We already knew there was going to be up and down, some stretches where it was going to be bad, some stretches were going to be good, and then ideally the hope was by December, November, when the playoff stretch is starting to hit, the guys clicking, the mistakes are less, the highs are more consistent, and you're not going to – look, you're going to try to develop a quarterback and have him come off injury, rusty, playoff – all the factors kind of say nah, that's pretty sketch versus you can go with a guy who you already know who's playing pretty well this season before the injury, has experience in the playoffs. As bad as he has been in the playoffs, it's still better because you know it. and you put Trey in there and say, for God's sakes, he plays terrible and takes hits, and that's like messes with his psyche. It just doesn't sound like a great spot to put a rookie quarterback, essentially what Trey is, into that spot. Where at least Purdy now, he's going to have more games under his belt, assuming he's healthy, than Trey going into the playoffs.
Let me ask you a question. So I keep asking Kyle Shanahan about Trey Lance, and it's fair to say he doesn't really appreciate the question. He doesn't want to answer this question. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, hell no, he doesn't want to answer.
He does not like this question, and he kind of doesn't really answer it. So what you're saying, because what he's saying essentially is that Trey's not ready. What you're saying is that you think Trey's probably ready, and they're deciding not to play him because he doesn't give him the best chance to win, given what's gone on the last 2 years. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying, is that how you read the situation? Is that how you read the 49ers viewpoint here?
I just think they're scared to throw him in there. I think kind of feel like they're scared to throw him in there for their own sake and for his sake. I mean, shoot, don't forget that when Trey got hurt, they thought Jimmy gave him the chance to win. Some players, all of a sudden, it's just the way the offense was already operating with Garoppolo, because it is a different offense and a different attacking approach to the game that Kyle Shanahan has with the Jimmy Garoppolo. And with Purdy, it shouldn't see too much of a drop-off in terms of what they're doing, because they kind of have a little bit of a similarity. Whereas Lance, it's like, now we got to wait for this guy to have all these learning curves. How's his psyche? It just feels like there's more of a risk factor for them. And especially if you're considering him for next year, that it seems there's more to lose than there is to gain. You throw him in there.
Sure. But what you're suggesting, I'm not arguing with you at all. I'm agreeing with you. But what I'm doing is just describing what you're saying. What you're describing is internally the Niners privately being like, hey, he might be physically ready to come back, but let's not say it. Let's just put him on ice. We don't want him to make his 5th career start in the playoffs. We'd rather do this with Brock Purdy. There'd be no pressure on Brock. There'd be a ton of pressure on Trey. We don't need to do that to him. So when Grant asks, is Trey ready? Just say no, even though he might be ahead of schedule. He might be kind of ready. Is that what we don't know, but is that your best guess as to what's going on internally?
Yeah, because I say his injury was like, he got injured like week 9, and he already had like a nice handful of games under his belt, and he was like, oh, he's out for the rest of the regular season, but he could back in playoffs. They might be more inclined to play him into the season.
Because you'd have like 2 months of good play like Jimmy had.
Yeah, like at least it's like, hey, at least we saw, like now it's like, God, we still have the mystery box here in Trey Lance. Right. I don't know what I'm getting versus I know what I'm getting with Jimmy. And heck, Jimmy's playing the best ball since he has since 2019. So I think that would be also a disservice to Trey Lance to throw him in there, because not like he's gonna say no. He'd be like, yeah, coach, throw me in there. And then all of a sudden he's like, the playoffs is like too much. I mean, look how Tua played just now in a playoff game against the Niners. That was a playoff atmosphere with playoff stakes. He was shaky. I mean, I remember watching. I don't know if you pay attention too much to the Miami sideline, but on the TV, they showed Tua running up and down the sideline, jumping up, getting all juiced, and I'm like, this guy is going to miss throws. Because to me, I remember always watching like other quarterbacks like Derek Carr, they get hyped up on the sideline. Yeah. They're over there shanking throws, and it's like, geez, you're going to be off. So to me, it's like there's so much, like the mental aspect of the game needs to not be understated, especially with quarterbacks.
I just think it's really interesting that they went from he's our starter, he's our guy, to, you know what, let's just not talk about him until next year. You know what I'm saying? Like, nothing against him. He's still. It's tough. It's tough, and yeah, it's true. Like, you called him the mystery box. There's a lot of truth to that. At least with Jimmy and Brock, you know exactly what you're gonna get. With Trey, it's like you have no idea from quarter to quarter, throw to throw, and you're hoping that at the end of the process, he's freaking Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen kind of thing. But can you expect that after what's happened this year? Hard to say. But I think it's just interesting that the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo just highlights that there's something fishy going on here. And maybe they're doing the right thing with Trey, but it just feels like they're not being transparent. I mean, Jimmy's ready, but Trey's not. Okay, sure. But I get it. But at the same time, you're not telling us. It doesn't really feel like you're really being transparent.